Hi everyone, it's me, Claire Pavitis at the Ayurveda Coach, here with Mauli Rituals for this first of our 4 masterclasses, and really excited to be doing this today. Thank you so much everyone for joining in. Hope you're all keeping well in this autumn windy Vata season. I've got my cozy jumper on now as I talk to you all, so I'm trying to stay warm and hope you all are too. So what's on the menu today? Well, today we are talking about that favourite topic of mine, the Agni, the digestive fire. Agni in Ayurveda literally means the word fire. So when I say digestive fire, I'm talking about that firepower in your gut. So it's the microbiome, it's digestive enzymes, it's all the flora and fauna, all the kind of modern words that we apply to this principle, but in Ayurveda we call it the Agni. So why is it important? Why does it matter? Why am I always going on about it? Well, when I first started learning Ayurveda, when I committed to studying it properly, I read this one really important line in the texts. And it translates as saying, the root cause of all disorders is an impaired Agni. So, the root cause of everything or anything that is going on physically, mentally in your body, the root cause is the impaired digestive fire, the impaired Agni, the impaired digestion. And, just got to sit and think on that for a minute, because it's like, yeah, okay, and then really think about it, the cause of all disorders, it's everything. And I think, Agni and digestive firepower really differs from person to person. So I think that's why a lot of us can kind of abuse it for a long time and get away with it, seemingly get to quite late in life before anything starts to go wrong. And for others, they can get away with a lot less. So we're all born, with a different kind of Agni, and it'll be affected by different things as we go through life. And it's really, really important that you take care of it. And it's never too late to start taking care of it either, by the way. So there's always things we can do. It's never too late to start. You can always, and part of Ayurvedic treatment is to kind of undo toxins, armor that have formed because of an impaired Agni, and to start putting that right and to start getting a little bit of balance going on. So, what is the Agni? Let's talk about this a little bit more. So, talked about it being a kind of digestive firepower. It's, kind of part of those enzymes in the gut, in the liver. There are actually about 13 main Agni. So, there are lots and lots of them in the body. But the 13 key ones are the Jatha Agni, which is in the stomach. Then you have the Bhuta Agni. There's 5 different Agnis, mainly located in the liver. And then the Dhatu Agni, and the Dhatu means the tissues. So we have 7 tissue levels in Ayurveda. We have the plasma, the blood, the muscle, the fat, the bone marrow, and then the sex or reproductive organs. So those are your 7 tissues. And so the Dhatu Agni refer to those 7 tissue levels, and there's an Agni for each one of those as well. I think principally the easiest thing to understand is that Jatha Agni that lives in the stomach. This is your main one, and this is the one where you'll probably be able to tune into that most easily and figure out what's going on. Now, I always try to get patients to think about the Agni as a real kind of living thing. It's a life force in us. And I think one of the easiest ways to think about it is like a little flame. Like, imagine there's a candle burning essentially. So imagine there's a little candle there. And to think about the practices, the food that you would like to put in your body, or the fuel that you'd like to put into that flame, into that fire, that candle, in order for it to burn nicely, all through the day. We want to have good energy. We want it to burn nicely and steadily, not too high, not too low, and we don't want it to kind of smolder and smoke and produce excess toxins. It's really about what can you do? What are those things to make sure that happens, that we have a balanced Agni? And so much like you would think about a fire, if you've got a log fire or something at home, you know that you need the right kind of logs. So just like with our bodies, we need the right kind of fuel in our bodies in order to make that process happen nicely. So some of the key things to think about avoiding are too much raw food. Too much raw food, it's very, very difficult to digest. So this fire, this flame in the body, it's got to cook the food. It's got to do something with it. So if you can already have cooked the food a little bit first before you put it in the body, it makes that job and that process of the Agni so much easier. I'm going to talk a little bit about that shortly, but think about the food that you're eating. Make sure it's cooked, it's easily digestible, and that it's warm. Then think about drinks as well. So, if you've got a glass of icy cold water and you pour that onto the flame, it's going to go out straight away. It's not going to work nicely. It's the same in your body. If you keep putting in the icy cold drinks, that's going to disrupt the Agni. It's the same thing as if you sort of, if you have a drink in place of hunger, in place of eating food. Again, that fire is calling out for some fuel, some nutrition. So you've got to think about putting warming drinks and warming food in order to get the best result to come out. Now, hunger is really important in all of this. So hunger is a really good sign that the Agni is awake, that it's ready to receive the fuel. So another kind of key thing to remember or to think about, if you want to take better care of your Agni, is to really tune in to hunger and what that's telling you. I know a lot of people often wake up and don't feel very hungry, but eat something anyway, because I think we're taught, you've got to have breakfast, you've got to have it before you leave the house, and so on. There's definitely lots of benefits to doing that, but I try and ask patients to sort of wait until that real feeling of hunger comes and then put the food in, because then the Agni is awake and it can process it better. And it's the same thing if you let yourself get too hungry. If you go the other way and you get kind of hangry feelings, like you're going to kill someone if you don't get to eat immediately. That's definitely used to be me. I'd be in the restaurant, don't even show me a menu, just bring me food. That kind of feeling. And then the flame is kind of burning too angrily, like it's getting too aggressive, it's too much, and you should have given it some fuel or some food a bit earlier. So we can get into trouble with that as well. And this brings us to the different types of Agni, so which level it's working at. So we can have what we call Tikshna Agni, which is where it's burning too high. It's almost like a bit of a Pitta type Agni. So it's that one that I talked about, the hangry, that really needing to eat straight away, or the whole world everything is just wrong. So that's when it's too high, and we need to calm that down, because obviously that's not normal, that's not balanced. The other one we see very, very often is Manda Agni. So Manda Agni is when it's very, very slow and very, very sluggish. And that kind of Agni, it's, the flame is really weak and maybe at risk of going out, and we need to do things to boost that and give it a little lift, because if it's kind of smouldering really low, then it's not working very well and it can't process the food very nicely. So what we're aiming for is Sama Agni, which is where the Agni is balanced and you have a good anticipation for food. So of course you feel hungry at the right time, you eat something warm and nourishing, and then the body does its thing, the Agni does its thing, it processes that food, and you can go for many, many hours, 6 hours or something, until the hunger comes back again. It's time to have your next meal, it's time to refuel the fire. And the Agni itself is, there's lots and lots of important processes that the Agni does in the body. But when it's working correctly, it will take the food that you put in and it will be able to process that food and that nourishment. It will take the good parts from it and take those through the 7 tissue levels of the body that we talked about. At the end of that process, 8 drops of ojas are produced. Now, ojas is your immunity, your kind of life force. So it's really important that not only the quality of the food we eat is good, but that the Agni is working correctly so that full process can be done. So we put the food in, we get the nutrients that we need, all the tissue levels are nourished and sustained with good food and nourishment, and then at the end the 8 drops of ojas are produced, and this is the perfect kind of process. And not too many toxins are produced. A little bit of armor usually from, no matter how good we are, it's normal that this is produced, and the Agni will take that away and send it to the channels to be eliminated. So either, we go to the toilet, we sweat, we have a wee, and that's the normal process. That's how it should work. If your digestive fire isn't working correctly, then that process is disrupted. So the food goes in, the Agni is not working very well, too many toxins are produced, too much armor is produced in the body. And this starts to build up and create blockages in those channels. And it can cause the doshas, so Vata, Pitta and Kapha, to be pushed or sent into places or parts of the body where they shouldn't be. And then disease starts to develop. So we have this we have this really intelligent system and process in the body. And I think we all know it intuitively. We all sort of know, a bit bloated today, a bit of wind, a bit of reflux, heartburn, or something. I shouldn't have eaten that thing last night, or I shouldn't have had that extra glass of wine, or whatever it is. We all recognize the feelings. And for the most part, as I said at the beginning, we can continue our kind of cycle of abuse of the Agni for many, many years. Without too many ill effects, without anything more than just that kind of sluggish feeling or feeling indigestion. But eventually it will catch up with us. It will eventually, the armor and the toxins will build up, and it will manifest at some point into some kind of disorder, symptoms, disease. So taking care of your Agni is really, really key. So we've talked already about, first of all, just recognizing how you're feeling after you eat and what you're eating. And start to, if you already know a little bit about the doshas, you can start to have an understanding perhaps of what kind of Agni you have, whether it's a kind of variable one, it's very up and down if you're Vata. If you're very strongly Pitta, it'll probably be quite high, that Tikshna Agni, a bit acidic, a bit inflammatory, it needs calming down. And if you think you're very Kapha kind of digestion, then you'll have that slower Manda Agni, and you need to do something to try and invigorate that and to pep it up a little bit. So I'm going to talk next week in Masterclass number 2, I'm going to talk through different actual remedies that you can make at home that you can use to try and look after your Agni with these remedies. And it's these will do very gentle things in terms of taking a little bit of the toxins out of the system and rebalancing that Agni so it's in a really good place. So that's kind of taking me to the end of this little masterclass all about the Agni. But just to recap, the kind of things you want to look out for, just key into, just listen into, are you feeling hunger? So when does your hunger come? How often is that? Is it too much? Is it kind of every hour or two, as soon as you finished eating, are you hungry again? In which case the Agni is perhaps too high, you need to address that. Are you taking a very long time to digest your food? Do you feel very, very full for a long time? Do you get very bloated? Do you get a lot of gas, wind, reflux, indigestion, heartburn, even things like constipation, diarrhea? These are all signs that the Agni in the digestive system is not quite working very well. So you need to, address it. Look at the food that you're eating. See if you can find a pattern between what you eat and then how you feel. But don't worry, because next week we're going to talk about some of these home remedies that you can take as well to try and get things a bit more into balance. Remember to eat when you're hungry. Remember to trying to have warm drinks instead of cold drinks, and substituting drinks for food. And to make sure that you have plenty of warm, nourishing meals and nothing that's raw or too cold or too heavy on the digestion. You can also try, things like tips that we know, like eating your largest meal during lunchtime. This is when the Agni is at the highest anyway. It's kind of its most powerful at around midday. So that's always a good idea, and to eat a lighter evening meal. So you're not going to bed with too much of a heavy tummy, and you're not putting too much pressure on that digestive system. But just to say again, so that key sentence, the root cause of all disorders is your impaired Agni. So don't worry too much about doshas. just listen to your digestion. That's one of the key founding principles of Ayurveda, and if you can follow that, and if you can get your digestion working nicely, then you're almost kind of, you're future-proofing yourself against being unwell, against disease in the future. Because if that Agni is working correctly, then the toxins that are produced will be taken out the body. They're not going to stay and cause blockages and cause issues in the body. And you're going to sleep better, you're going to have better energy, you're going to have better mood. Agni it's not just the physical self, but also the mental. There's a real connection now. Even modern science is catching up with Ayurveda 5,000 years later, and it's finding this connection between gut health and mental health. And so looking after your Agni and your gut health is also key. It's the 360. It's not just the physical self, it's the mental as well. So remember that it's not just the food that goes in, not just the liquids that go in, but anything, any kind of, you have an argument with someone, you see something unpleasant on the news, or you read something in the newspaper, it's all has to be processed by these Agni in the body. And the good stuff we have to keep and nourish ourselves with, and the bad stuff has to be taken out and taken away. So for that to happen, look after your Agni. If you're interested in learning more about this and more about the process, more tips, then my book, Balance Your Agni, is out now. It's available on Amazon and all good bookstores. And it's just a really simple introductory guide to Agni and how to look after it, what it's all about. So I hope it's been really useful. As I say, join me next week for class number 2, and we'll be here in the kitchen, and I'll be talking through various home remedies, different things you can try. So it's applicable for everyone, so young and old. Come and join me next week. You only need a few simple things, and you can be sorting out your Agni. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to Mauli for having me. And if you feel, if you're able to do so, then please do give a small donation to the charity listed below. Be really, really welcomed to do that. So the idea is that the practitioner is giving some time in giving these masterclass videos, and in return just a small donation to the chosen charity would be really, really wonderful. And then we can do some good in the world. We can look after our digestive systems, and we can be helping others as well. So thank you very much for that, and take care everyone, and I'll see you all next week.